Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our earnings call for the fourth quarter of 2022. The presentation today will be conducted by Mr. Bruno Castro, CFO and Director of IR at Modal. Before I pass on the floor to them, I would like to make some initial remarks. This earnings call will be in Portuguese, with simultaneous translation into English. To access this, you must select the interpretation button at the bottom part of your screen, and then choose the language in English. To keep up with the presentation in English, you can select the chat icon and download the presentation. To submit your question, select the Q&A icon and write your name and company. When you're announced, enable your audio to submit your question. Now I'll pass the floor on to Mr. Bruno Castro. Good morning, everyone. Thank you once again for being present in our earnings call, where we'll have the opportunity to talk about our earnings in the year of 2022. Initially, I would like to start off highlighting and thanking everyone for their engagement and performance of our team of employees throughout 2022. It was a year that started with the announcement of an important transaction with XP, but we also had to face many challenges and adversities throughout the year, especially in the macroeconomic scenario that was more adverse and more challenging. So once again, I want to thank you all and with our associates and employees for this year that was very challenging, but with high levels of deliverables and engagement. When we get into our numbers now, I want to talk about our operational highlights. So we ended the year with an AUC of 46 billion and a net raising of 11 billion, which gives us an average pace of about 900 million per month and over 600,000 active customers. When we move into our financial KPIs, we ended the year with a revenue of about 950 million reais and an adjusted net income of 112 million. Once again, we want to highlight our financial discipline with our gross margin consistently every quarter performing at about 80%, which naturally was our consolidated results for the year. When we look at our SG&A, we had about 370 million reais, where we had a slight growth compared to the increase in the revenue. And we have some adaptable measures to growth our revenue and also adjust our SG&A expenses that have been implemented ever since the second semester. When it comes to our capital and liquidity metrics, I want to highlight our solid cash position, about 1.6 billion. This is a number we've been reporting every quarter. And our ratio of our credit portfolio versus our net equity is about 1.5 times, which is a little bit slower than the previous year, which was the fruit of an active management in our credit portfolio. When we talk about our portfolio, it's important to mention the retail sector that's been frequently spoken of in this quarter. And our exposure due to the characteristics of our business model are pretty insignificant in the retail segment. And we don't have any adverse relevant effects resulting from any adjustments or provisions related to the sector. Additionally, our Basileia index is about 2%. And above the minimum regulatory level, which gives us the capital structure that we need to support our growth for 2023. Moving on to the next slide. As we get to the combination of our merger of our business with XP, the status is the same still as the last call. We're still waiting on the approvals necessary on behalf of XP. Once we have the approvals, we'll begin the next stage, which is calling on the second general shareholders meeting for Banco Modal, which will discuss and define definitely about the swap of shares with Banco Modal and XP. Then we'll have the registration and formalization in the central bank with the definite request for this transaction. I want to highlight our best expectations and the management team to have the completion of the transaction still in the first quarter, But due to this first quarter we're already in mid first quarter, there is a hypothesis that's a little more realistic of maybe moving on to the beginning of the second quarter with a definite closing. And then, of course, through our IR website, we'll keep all of our shareholders and investors updated on the next actions and events. Having presented this, I want to thank our clients and partners once again that have been consuming and sharing all the benefits of our ecosystem recurrently. This is an important pillar, of course, in our business model. And I also want to thank our shareholders that continue to actively keep up with our performance and working very closely to our IR web team. And last but not least, I want to highlight all of the performance and engagement coming from our employees and teams in 2022. Having said that, we will move on to the Q&A session. Now we'll begin our questions and answers session. I would like to remind you that if you have a question, you should select the Q&A icon. The Q&A session and the earnings call has officially ended. Questions that were not answered during this call will be answered by the IR team futurely by email. We want to thank everyone for participating and wish you all a wonderful day.